In this video, I want to share with you the difference between an ultrasonic humidifier versus a warm mist evaporative humidifier. And not only do I want to share with you the pros and the cons, but I also want to share with you the actual difference between these products. This is the YO-M2 and this is the Dreo HM735S. I don't know why they didn't pick easier names to remember, but that's what they went with. And you can find them both on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below to both of these products so you can check them out, and hopefully this video will give you a better idea of what to choose if you're looking for a humidifier. So starting off with the ultrasonic humidifier, basically what that does is it uses high frequency vibrations to make the water turn into a mist, and then it humidifies your room. But one of the biggest drawbacks about this method is there's way more germs and bacteria in the air. So you're actually supposed to use distilled water with these types of devices, which one, that costs a little bit more money. And then two, they require a lot more cleaning maintenance with them. You're supposed to clean these things like daily, just so that the bacteria doesn't grow as much. And these are way more prone to germs, which that's a huge downfall. If you're getting one of these to humidify your room for a toddler or a baby or an infant, that's way more risky because of health concerns. So if you have any respiratory issues, a humidifier like this is actually a lot more unhealthy because of all the bacteria that it carries in the mist that it produces. So that's one of the biggest drawbacks with a device like this versus a warm mist humidifier that actually boils the water first to get rid of all the bacteria, all the germs. And so then the warm steam that it's producing is sterile, it's clean, it's bacteria free. So it's a lot cleaner, a lot better to use for infants, for people with respiratory issues. So this is much cleaner air versus this is not. But that's not the only difference between these two units though. There are still some differences as well. For example, this produces a cool mist, meaning I can touch it, it feels cool, and there's nothing harmful about it, versus this is warm steam, so it actually is much hotter. If you put your hand really close to it, it can burn you if you hold it there for a prolonged period. So again, if you're gonna be putting this in a toddler's room, you're gonna wanna make sure that they know to stay away from it, not to touch it, or put it in an area of the room that they can't get to it, so that they don't accidentally burn themselves, since this is much hotter air. So that's one of the biggest drawbacks about a device like this. And also a drawback about a warm mist evaporative humidifier is it's more pricey. So not only does the initial cost is more, so between these two actual products, this one comes in at $300 versus this one comes in at, I think it was around $170. So this is actually much more expensive than a device like this. And then it also costs a little bit more to run a device like this because of its energy consumption when you actually run it. So your electric bill could be slightly higher on a device like this versus these ones are more efficient. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're actually looking at a humidifier, but those are some of the main differences between cool mist like this with an ultrasonic one versus warm steam evaporative mist like this one. So that's the biggest differences between these two style of products. Now, when I actually compare these two products side by side, the YO-M2 versus the Dreo HM735S. I always forget the name of this one. I have it written down, or not. I have the instruction manual right there so I can see what the name is. But this one, to me, it's a little more unstable. So if you tap this, if you have a toddler, I feel like this can get bumped and knocked down way easier, and then it's gonna spill water everywhere throughout your house. So that's one of my main concerns with a device like this, is it just doesn't seem very stable. But it looks a little cooler. It's sleek, it's slender, it looks very modern. It has a nice little light right here, which indicates your humidity level in your room. It also has a nice LED screen. So some of the technology is better on a device like this, but this one is more stable. You're not gonna bump this over. Touching it actually isn't that bad. I don't feel like this whole unit is warm. The only warm spot is the steam right above here, and as you can see, I can place my hand over it. It's not burning me, but it definitely feels warm, and if you had someone hold their hand over this for a longer period, then it definitely could burn them. So that's kind of what I noticed with this, but this is a much simpler display and layout for the device. The control panel is very easy to see, understand, and to use. And then it just has simple buttons on the top here for you to toggle through different functions. You can choose it to have different humidity levels, or you can set it to an actual percentage, and then once it reaches that desired percentage, it kind of lowers the amount of humidity it's producing. And then you can have a child lock that you can turn on, and then you can also have a timer on it. So this is very basic, very easy to understand and to operate. This still has all those same functions. You can change the humidity level, you can use a percentage, you can put it in a sleep mode, which kind of dims the display. You can also set a timer on this, so all the same functions. The only few benefits of this when it comes to the technology is it shows a light, which is kind of cool. Has an LED screen right here, which looks nice. And then this one also pairs to an app, which that could be useful if you're not home, but you want to crank up the humidity in your room first before you get home. You can use your app to turn it on and to operate it. So that could be one advantage of a device like this, versus this doesn't come with an app. But I honestly think the more I've been using a humidifier, I don't necessarily feel like I utilize all the technology that I can. When I want to turn it on and get more humidity, I'll walk over and hit a button and it's on and I can set my level. So it's very simple. I honestly don't use all the features that I could with a device like this in a real world situation. I just don't find myself using all the technology on a device like this. Another function that I actually prefer about the YO-M2 versus the Dreo is that this one is way easier to fill up with water. It has two large reservoirs in it that you can easily fill in the sink, versus this one, it has just a little teeny spot up top here that you're gonna be filling with like a picture or something with distilled water. So I feel like the ease of use is way easier to fill this up and get it to max capacity, versus this one you're gonna make a lot of trips to fill up this little reservoir, which drains into the bigger reservoir down here. So it's not quite as easy to fill up if you're in a rush or something. Another difference between these two units is, since this does boil the water, it does take slightly longer to produce the steam. So you have to wait till it boils and then it will start producing the steam, versus this one is immediate. Another weird difference between these two units is they are about 10% difference in their humidity levels for what they display. And I don't know why it's that big of a difference. I don't know which one's accurate. I don't have a humidifier gauge with me to test out the actual humidity level in this room, but this one shows that it's currently at 42%. This one shows it's at 57%. So that's a pretty big discrepancy for what it's showing for the air level humidity. So that's something else that I noticed, but I don't know which one of them is accurate and which one is off. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. So to me, this is the option that I think I prefer, just because I definitely am concerned about health issues, especially with infants and children and people with sicknesses. I would rather have clean, fresh air and then be okay with a little warm steam coming out of here, versus this one carries way more bacteria and germs, and I just feel like I lean towards a device like this. So those are my thoughts between these two products. Please let me know if you have any more questions about them, and I'll try to do my best to answer them in the comments. And there it is. Hopefully this gave you a little bit better idea of what humidifier you should be looking for.